are powers on Earth too hidden to be seen, and conspiracies too vast to comprehend. For years, the world has seen fact distorted, reality manipulated, and the truth concealed. Join the PIERRE SABAK podcast to uncover the real meanings behind ancient aliens and their symbolism.
Hi, this is PIERRE SABAK, unlocking the keys to the mysteries. Now today I want to have a look at the Malach Elohim, and I want to look at the relationship between the high angels and how the Malach Elohim are said to be terrifying in their appearance. I think also we're going to have a look at various different types of deities and their designations within the ancient Semitic and within the Greek, and see how they actually cross over when we're beginning to talk about the seraphim and the angels in terms of how frightening they are. So first of all, I just want to look at the word in Malach Elohim. Now the terminology Malach Elohim is often translated as an angel of God within the Bible. Now I translate this as the high angels. So Malach Elohim, the high ones, and Malach is an angel. So in this respect we see that the Malach Elohim, that the terminology Elohim is interchangeable and is used to refer to Malach, which is a type of angel, the two terminology being synonymous. So Malach Elohim, the high angels, is a type of god or a deity. We can say that variously it can be understood to be a type of Erin, which is a watcher or a shining one, or the seraphim, again Sophefa, watcher, Serepha, which is fire, which would connote a serpent, but a watcher or a shining one. Now the seraphim, or the Malach Elohim, are entities and they have control over the earth. We mentioned this in my previous video on regarding Amram and the testament of Amram, who argued that the watchers had been given jurisdiction to rule over earth. So these are entities which are very frightening, and their demeanour is reptilian, and this means that their outward appearance induces fear. And I think that this is very much a crucial idea which is encoded throughout the Semitic vocabulary, and I just want to have a look at some of these wordplays. So for example, we find that Yahweh, translated here in a very loose sense as Lord or God, but the etymology of Yahweh is coming from the Aramaic ayah, which is the verb to be. In this respect would connote an entity. In Latin, entity is where, or entitas is where we get the verb to be. So Yahweh, ayah, which is a wordplay on ayah, which is a serpent. In the Old Semitic, Yahweh was written as ayah, and ayah, which is a serpent. In this respect, he is the Lord of the host. Now, Yahweh is a wordplay on Yare, which is fear, and it's also an expression which is duplicated in the Greek or within the Hellenistic wordplays. So, for example, we find the same relationship between Theos, God, and Dios, which is fright. Again, the connotation here is really of a type of seraphim. And we're going to look at this idea in a moment. So, for example, if we look at the Greek noun dios, fright, we can say that it is assembled from the verbal root dio, which is to bind. And this really is understood to be a psychic term, and it infers mental possession, inspiration or mental possession. And this is can be understood to be the linking of minds, which is indicative of a telepath, one who is joined or who is stitched to a god. Now, archaically, this has connotation of a grafted lineage. So the terminology of being joined, stitched, or grafted are all terminologies used to refer to a hybrid. In the Greek, this would be a hemitheoi, or a half-god. In English, a demigod. So again, we're finding that there are similarities between this idea of a seraph or a god which induce fear. As I mentioned in my previous video last week, the etymology of seraph is related to wrath, which is terror. But again, similar ideas are found within the Greek of theos, God, and dios, fright, or within the Aramaic, Yahweh, Lord or God, loosely, and Yareh, which is fright. So, but similar ideas are certainly found within the Canaanite tradition, and therefore with the divinity of Baal, again, which is translated as Lord, his name is really understood to be related in the esoteric tradition to Baal, which is the prime root to tremble, and this can mean to palpitate, and it's used in a figurative sense to mean to suddenly to be alarmed or to cause fear, to tremble inwardly. And it's very much an etymon which corresponds with the Aramaic verb bahal, to terrify, and again bahala, which would be panic, destruction or terror. So once again, we're finding that there is this pattern between a deity and fear, and if we wanted to just summarize that up very quickly, we could say that within the Aramaic there is a correspondence between Yahweh, the Hebrew word for God, or the name of Yahweh, Yareh, which is fright or fear. Then in the Greek we've got Theos, which is the Hellenistic god, connected to Dios, which is fright, and within the Old Semitic, Baal, which is the Canaanite for God, and Bahal, which is to terrify. So significantly, the encoding of a horrifying god throughout all of the languages are shown to be connected to fear, and therefore there is this close etymological comparison, certainly within the Mediterranean and Semitic languages, between a deity and fear. And this is very important, particularly when we begin to also look at the seraphim and the daemonic hosts as well, and now we find that there are many similarities between the daemons and angels as well. So for example, within Aramaic we've got a jinn, and again the jinn is a type of spirit which is synonymous with trepidation, and so therefore when we look at the Arabian traditions, we can say that the terminology of a jinn, which in the Greek would be equivalent to a daemon, when we look at this within the Arabic, the general appellation for a jinn or an angel is a fasajadu. Now it's a generic term and it's used to signify both an angel or a jinn. Now the terminology fasajadu is a namesake which is equivalent in Arabic with fasa, fear. So again we're finding that the fasajadu, an angel or a jinn, again is equated with fasa, which is fear. So again we're finding that it's very explicit, but that there is this resemblance between a divinity and its relationship between a daemon. Within the Greek we said that there was this connection between theos, a god, and dios, which is dread. But again, this same idea is replicated in the classical lexicon of a daemon, who is a supernatural entity, and deimos, which is fear. And so we're finding that there are, if you like, that there are similarities which are playing out between a god and a daemon, if you like, a type of seraphim, wrath, which is fear, seraph, and wrath, which is fear. So again, this idea that the daemons or the gods are non-human in appearance and that they induce fear is a very common idea throughout biblical and apocryphal discourses. But again, when we go to the fertility cults, also within the Hellenistic mysteries, the depiction of a daemon, in particular the goat deity Pan, can be understood to be a frightening entity, and again Pan is one who inspires irrational terror within humans, and this is found within the Greek word panikos, panic, related to Pan. So again we're seeing that Pan can be understood to be a type of frightening deity, and this is very important. Now again, Pan is a type of faun, and a faun in this respect, again, he's one who's understood to be frightening or terrifying. So I just want to now go over some of the basic etymologies in terms of fear, and I think that this is very important because throughout the discourse, what we're looking at, we're seeing that whether it's a god, an angel, a serpent or a jinn, all of these entities are frightening in appearance. They induce fear. And I think that this is very important. As we mentioned before, the terminology of a seraph or a seraphim, which is a type of angel, is really concordant with a jinn in the Old Semitic jinn, which is a snake or a worm. In both respects, the jinn are born from fire in the same way that seraph, a serpent, is connected to Serefa, which is fire, which is this esoteric signifier of Sirius. Sirah is the sparkling one, the scorching one. Sarah is a spark. So the seraphim are born from Sirius. Now, I want to just look at the terminology, therefore, between the gods, the angels, and also jinn in terms of how they are described as frightening. So I'm just going to quickly summarize this so that we can be very clear that whether we're dealing with a god, whether we're dealing with an angel, a seraph, or a jinn, we are dealing here with the same type of entity in terms of that they are frightening and that they are typically represented or understood to be a type of seraphim, which is a non-human angel. They are equated to a non-human species. So let's look at, first of all, the etymology between God and fear. In Aramaic, we said Yahweh, which is the Hebrew word for God, or the Hebrew title for God, is related to Yare, which is fear. In the Greek also, Theos is the Hellenistic name for God, is equated with Dios, fright. Similarly, when we look at the Old Semitic traditions of Baal, he is understood to be Bechal, which is terrifying. When we move on into the angels also, we're seeing that there is this connection between the seraphim, seraph, which is the singular noun, and Raph, which is terror. But again, within the divisions of the thrones also, the thrones are a type of angels. Now, the thrones are used in the occult tradition to refer to the opening wheels, or a type of throne chariot, which is a carrier of an angel. In the modern parlance, this would be a type of flying saucer. So the opening are spinning wheels, which look like a spinning saucer. So the etymology of thronos, which is an angel or a throne, but again is used to refer to a throne chariot, which is a type of opening wheel, is equated with threnos, which is to frighten, and that's within the Greek. But again, the fairies are said to be a type of jinn, or a type of angel. Again, they are represented within symbolism as having wings, because the fairy originates from heaven. But again, there is this comparison in English between fairy and fear. So whether it's seraph and Raph, which is terror, or fairy and fear, these are one and the same type of entity. They induce fear. Going on into the Arabic, we have the Fasajadu, which is a generic term for the angels or jinn. Again, the Fasajadu are once again synonymous with Fasa, which is fear. The Fasajadu can be understood to be a type of daemon, or a type of supernatural entity, which is equated in the Greek with Deimos, which is fear. So daemon and Deimos, which is fear. Or again, within the Greek, Pan, which is the goat deity, which is gain. The goat is used to denote a type of jinn, and Panikos, which is panic or fear. Again, when we're dealing with the jinn are gen, which is a type of the Old Semitic word for a type of serpent or worm. But the jinn are the same with the seraph or Raph, which is terror. Again, within the Arabic, Afra, viper, is related to Kafa, which is fear or fright. So again, we're finding these same wordplays playing out over and over again, and these terminologies relate to the Malak Elohim, which we said were the eye angels. But the idea of an angel being an Elohim is one and the same, and they are interchangeable within the Old Semitic and within the ancient representations of the angels and their connection both to the jinn and also to the Elohim. Okay, I think that's a basic summary of how the deities are frightening in their outward appearance. As we said before, typically they were represented as reptilian in their countenance. This is PIERRE SABAK. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this video, then please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up also. Thank you for listening once again. Let's try and make this a better world. This is PIERRE SABAK. Thank you.